And hey, welcome to IFB Exclusive. I'm your host, New York Pete. I hope you're ready for the inside track. Our special guest tonight on our program is none other than the Answer Man, a subject matter expert known as Thaddeus Howze. And he's going to give us some insights on, you know, where he's coming from, writing and technology, and he's got this really cool thing where he's a subject matter expert on a lot of things, and we're lucky to have him on tonight. And Thaddeus, I believe you are. Yes, look at that,
I
just like
am
magic.
here.
Fantastic. Thank you for taking the time out. Welcome to IFB Exclusive. I was looking at some of your work. I am super fascinated. I like the idea that you are the answer man.
Yeah, that is an old identity. Believe it or not, I've been the answer man for almost 20 years.
Wow.
And I didn't know there was another guy from Marvel once upon a time who used that title as well.
Oh,
So
really?
I found out that he existed somewhere around the year 10, and I've been calling myself this, and I didn't know. So when I started doing stuff on Quora, and I was calling myself the answer man, someone said, "Are you this guy?" And I'm like, "Oh no, who's that guy?" So he's the answer man. He's been the answer man for Marvel for a long time. So I was like, "Oh my, well, let me go look him up." So I go look him up, and he has been some guy that's been answering comic questions for years. And I
Oh,
started doing it on the Sci-Fi Stack Exchange where I first started writing, and then I started doing it on Quora where I basically I took the Sci-Fi Stock Exchange, which was nice. It was fun, but it's very dry. They wanted a very clinical answer, and there's nothing wrong with that. Clinical's good, but I wanted to do more than that. I wanted to have fun, so I started going to Quora and answering the same questions my way, and that was a big deal. People liked that a lot. So the answer man became that's when my identity became more solidified because I'd written on bulletin boards for years and comic bulletin boards, and people were always talking about superheroes and stuff, and I was always in there, giving my 2 bits. So when this came out, I was like, yeah, I could do this. This is me. So I leaned into it, and I started having a good time, and so I stayed the answer man, and I don't mind. People still send me weird superhero questions. They also send me other questions. So I have science questions because I do science explaining and talk about technology and climate change. And so people send me weird questions and I try to answer them,
and you do
honestly.
that. Outstanding. I know that you've also been you were a part of the academic world. So you did instruct for a while, I believe, and
I,
so
I taught computer science and introduction to computer science. I taught introduction to networking, network design. So yeah, I've been I've been answering questions for like
for
my,
some time.
my whole IT career was basically that. The reason I even got into IT was my belief ultimately was that people are lazy, and that if I spend the time to learn the technology so they don't have to, they just pay me and I'll do it. And for 20 years, that actually paid the bills and did everything for me. It was great because people are essentially lazy. They
Yeah,
don't want to learn how to use their computers. So
yeah.
it's like if they can pay someone who knows this, who's an expert, who can come in and do it in an hour, yeah, that's what they're going to do. So I come in and do it in an hour, and then I'm rich and they're rich and everybody's happy.
That's
So
it.
yeah, that worked great for a long, long time. And when I became a college professor, I really loved it. I think that was the job that I probably enjoyed more than any other job I've ever had. Teaching suited me, even though I wasn't always happy with the. There were things about the process. Teaching is a business, and so there's the teaching, and then there's the business, and the
Uh,
business is never fun, but the teaching was great. So I did the teaching, I tolerated the business, and for 7 years it was a great thing. And then when I ran across an administrator I could no longer fight, I said, I'm going to become an administrator. So I did. And that's how I became the VP of IT for John F. Kennedy University. And did that for 3 or 4 years. And then started migrating toward writing. And probably by 2011, 2010, I was really entrenched in the idea of writing. In 2011, I published my first book. Um, and after that, I think I stayed hungry for writing. And so I basically, then I did writing for Quora, Stack Exchange, uh, uh, Huffington Post, basically anybody that would let me send them an article and send me money. I
Nothing
was
wrong
with
with
it.
that.
Yeah, I was with it. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
had no
yeah.
problem with that. So for 2016, I was top writer. 2017, I was top writer. 2018, I was top writer. And then they stopped having the top writer awards. And I was broken because I was certain I was going to be top writer for 2019 too. But I will take a threefer because it means it
Yes,
wasn't an accident.
that's correct.
I
Yep.
did the work. And, you know, if you want to see the stuff I wrote on Quora, it's all there. It's rude, it's irreverent, and still a lot of fun. And I still enjoy going there on a fairly regular basis to occasionally answer a question or tease somebody about some superhero or other.
Love it. That's excellent. So, needless to say, you're a fan of obviously the comic book genre and sci-fi. You've taken your career, your knowledge, and I know that it drives part of what you've written. And I'm fascinated by there's one book that you've got out that I want to touch upon. But before we go there, I just want to recognize some of those that have jumped on live. I know I have Dave and Chuck and Lola and Chris. Thank you all for joining us here live. And then everybody that watches this later, this is IFB exclusive. This is not the regular IFB Interfleet Broadcasting. This is a branch off where we just have exclusive talk with guests, and we dive deep into some of the background and what they're doing like we have so far. Thaddeus, thank you so much for taking the time out and being here. And there's, we were making our way slowly. You were telling me then about writing. And I know that you've also instructed those that are interested in how to write, but
Yes.
there's 3 books that I found on Amazon. One is called Visions 2, Moons of Saturn. Broken Glass, the Eye of Knowledge series, and then there is Hayward's Reach, right? The
Yes.
Twilight Continuum.
Yes.
So I want to try to get some insights out of you on those. Broken Glass is something that I think I am very, very interested in. So interested in that actually I'm going to be picking that up right after the show. I looked at it, and the paranormal investigator angle is something I've always been into as a fan of Kolchak, the Night Stalker.
My Kolchak is he is one of the inspirations for the role. Yes, he is. 2011 is when you'll see for the first book, which was Hayward's Reach. Hayward's Reach started off as a NaNoWriMo project. Before NaNoWriMo became tainted with evil. In 2011, I decided I was going to try it. And to make it challenging, I said I was going to write 30 short stories in 30 days. That was going to be my NaNoWriMo. It wasn't going to be a novel. It was going to just be 30 short stories in 30 days. And I was going to try and publish as many of those short stories as I could. And when I started working on it, I stipulated that I couldn't tell any cheap stories. There could be no vampires. There could be no werewolves. Okay. There could be none of the standard trope stuff that we see so much of in the world. So I limited myself to make myself work. And for the first 10 days, it was smooth. I did a story every day, didn't bat an eyelash. Day 11, a little more challenging. Day 12, started getting rough. But by day 14, I hit the wall. I was like, okay, what did we write about? So then I just let myself go. I was like, up until that moment, I felt like I was in control. But at that point, I was like, I'm going to let it go. I'm just going to write whatever I want. And for the next 15 days, some of the best stuff I ever wrote, ever, even to this day, came out of that moment of existential crisis. It's like, oh my God, can I do this? Because I bragged to all my friends I was going to do it. we had argued. I used to work with a group called the Black Sci-Fi Association.
Okay.
And or Black Sci-Fi Society. And we got together, and we would get together every week, and we talk about writing stories. And so we were joking, yeah, I'm going to write a short story every week. And so we were like, it's not possible. You can only write one short story a month. And I laughed and said, well, I'm going to write one a week. And I did. And they laughed and said, that's not possible. Do it again. So I did it again. I said, so one day I was feeling feeling my Wheaties. I was like, you know what? I'm going to write a short story every day for 30 days.
Whoa.
And they looked at me and said, it's not possible. You can't do that. And I realized I had stepped way. I had stepped in it. now I have to deliver it. So I wrote it and it was done. And I really enjoyed it. Of the 30 stories, I kept 27 of them.
Oh, wow.
So 27 stories went into Hayward's Reach. I enjoyed it immensely. And I got my college professor. I convinced her. It's like, Jan, you're not doing anything. Why don't you do an edit for me? Because I know you know me, and I know you know my weaknesses. So if anybody's gonna know where I fall off, it's gonna be you. So I called her. We were friends. We've been friends for 20 years at that point. So she's like, okay, I'll take it. So she takes the book on and she reads it, and of course she eviscerates it.
Oh,
lovingly. No, lovingly.
Okay.
In the way that I know that a good editor is supposed to do. A good editor is supposed to make you better. And when she was done, I was better. So I was thrilled. So I got it done. I did my own page layout. I did my own cover design. I paid a guy in Afghanistan to do my painting. And he sent me out beautiful high resolution painting. I mean, it's the actual size of it's like 6 by 8. But, he took a photograph, he digitized it and reduced it down for me. So it's the front and the back of the book. And I printed it out. And when I was done with it, I was like, wow, this is awesome. I was so thrilled with it. And I knew I was going to keep writing. I knew I would. So a couple of years later, my wife was like, well, you need to write something a little bit longer. Those are all short stories. What you got that's longer? So she convinced me to take a couple of short stories that I'd written for a paranormal investigator named Clifford Ingram. And I decided, you know what? I can't stand John Constantine. I can't stand him.
Oh,
can't stand him. So
why?
What if I made a paranormal investigator that was everything that John Constantine wasn't? And Clifford Ingram was born.
Okay, so that was a driving force, but what exactly was it? What was the catalyst? What was if you could say, let's say, pick 3 things that you didn't like about John Constantine, and was it the movie? Was it who was it that you didn't like?
I liked the movie, weirdly enough. I don't have a problem with the movie.
Okay.
Keanu Reeves wasn't blonde, but I don't care that much about that.
Okay.
Was he John Constantine? Yes. Everything he touched turned, pardon my French, turned to hell. He was terrible. Everybody dies. And that's one of the things that I dislike so much about him. In the comics where, I met him, he's an effective super being. He's an effective being. He does his job. He does it well. Problem is, everybody he touches dies. Everybody he gets involved with dies. Anything that he loves dies. And I just got tired of it. I got tired of the idea that being a paranormal investigator means that everything you love must die. Every person you involve yourself suffers. Everyone must go. And I just said, it can't be this way. There's got to be a way to do this. So with John Constantine and Harry Dresden as polar opposites, but influencing forces, I wanted to make my own. So one day I was frustrated. So I wrote my first story with Clifford Ingram called Cryptic. And I wrote it and I gave it to my wife. She says, oh, damn, this is the best thing you've ever written. I'm like, no, it's not, but it feels good. I did like it. I did like it. I can't say it was the best thing I ever wrote, but it came off smooth. I didn't feel like I was having I wasn't, some things you wrestle with, other things you shape. This thing just happened. Just like, imagination. It just happened. And I was like, okay, we're going to do this again. So I wrote a few more, and then I wrote a few more, and then I wrote a few more. And then I said, you know what? I think I'm going to try and tell something about 30,000, 40,000 words. So the prototype story was called The Man Who Wasn't There. It's about a serial killer who kills people by accessing the mirror.
Okay. Wow.
So
all right.
Every room's got a mirror.
Yeah. Oh boy.
To kill you. He waits till you get in front of it, and then he kills you. And of course, your doors are locked, your windows are locked. There's no evidence in the room because he didn't leave any. He brought you to him, killed you, then brought you back. Locked door mystery, the perfect kind of thing for Clifford Ingram, because this is something the police are just going to shake their heads at and go, what
Wow.
the hell?
Yeah.
So that's the story. That's why it's called Broken Glass.
Interesting.
And the criminal, the mastermind, the monster, the most fun I've had in years. He's just the most fun. At the end of the book, Mark's like, you got to kill him, right? I'm like, are you serious? Kill this guy? Oh no, this is money. He can't die. I'm gonna find a way to get rid of him. And that took me about a week to find a way to get rid of him. But it was a perfect way to get rid of him. He is just out. And he'll be back eventually when I feel like I want to do that. But it was the most fun I had in years. I've been a role-playing gamer for like 40 years.
Okay.
So, dealing with role-playing worlds, magical universes, magical power systems. And I've been doing this forever. There's no game system I haven't played. Dungeons and Dragons, Champions, Danger International, GURPS. You name it, I've played it. Traveler, Gamma World, I've done it all. There's no place in the fantastic that I haven't trod for years.
Excellent.
So when I decided to make my own fantastic world, I was like, yeah, we're going to just pull out the stop. So Broken Glass has everything I think a good paranormal world should have in it, and a protagonist that is intelligent, sympathetic, focused. He is not a monster. Monsters get killed. Do not get it twisted. We will kill monsters. But it's not his goal. His goal is to find a way to curate the second world, to be a person who bridges the gap between our world today and the second world, this other world where vampires are normal and ghosts and other supernatural things live quite happily right alongside us, and we don't even know. And I wanted to have a good time, and like I said, I like Harry Dresden kind of.
Yeah, I get that.
And I like John Constantine kind of, but I felt that murdering everybody you see or being geased by everyone who knows you, these were two extremes. I just thought we could find something in between that. So I did. So Clifford Ingram is that in between, and I've been enjoying it. Matter of fact, I'm currently on a binge now. I'm writing the Tale of the Untouchable Rat. It's about an individual who basically gets by doing as little as possible. Okay. He goes to a bar. He wants to drink. He orders a drink. He drinks the drink, and then he points at something over there. You look over there, and you forget he was ever there.
Ooh.
And he just walks back out the door.
Interesting.
He's a ne'er-do-well. He has no interest in doing anything good. He wants to shop. He goes to the store. He picks up what he wants. He walks out the door. No one stops him because no one remembers he was ever there. And he gets involved in a case where Clifford is investigating a deity who's been bound to a location. And he's been investigating things that have been going on since she's been bound there. And during the time that she gets bound there, he investigates and finds out she's a friend of, they've been friends for years, but she makes a pass at him and he thinks, no, we've been here. We've done this. We don't want to do this again. And she steals his body.
Oh boy.
She steals his body so she can leave. And he is now trapped in her body, which is awesome and divine. And he has no apparent ability of how to use it. And their escape plan was supposed to be that she would teleport somewhere else, and the person she was going to have pick her up. But something goes wrong, and she ends up switching bodies. So she does teleport. Her body does teleport. Okay. He does not. His body stays there, and she's in his body, and he is in her body. Ooh. So now he is a divine fugitive.
Oh, boy.
So he has now got to figure out how to get to someone to help him before he gets captured and or eaten by technologies that are designed to capture or kill or destroy renegade gods who aren't obeying the rules that they agreed to when they took their roles as, guardians or bound entities. She is a bound entity. She was a monster once upon a time, and so that she wasn't destroyed, she agreed to be bound to a location in San Francisco. She has a city block in San Francisco that she is bound to. She cannot leave it. And the fact that she does means that she is now a fugitive and wanted by pretty much every agency, every monster hunter group, every group that's designed to terminate renegade deities, and the agency that Clifford works for itself. So he's got to try not to get killed before he can get back to his body, which is currently trying to corrupt her and eat her.
So this is strictly going to be the next novel?
It'll
Or
be a novella. I plan to write 3 novellas, put them together, and that way I will have. My goal is to get a feel for the characters so that I can write longer stories.
Okay.
So if I write 3 novellas, 40,000 words, I get a rhythm. And I feel like I have a rhythm now. Now that I've written a bunch of little stories, a bunch of short stories, a bunch of vignettes and things like that, I feel like I know the character now. And if I wanted to write a novel, I probably could. But my original goal was to write 3 novellas, bind them all together. That'd be his first appearance. And then I'd have, for my next thing, a full-length novel that's, got all the challenges of a full-length novel.
So as you were describing it, I saw this as a show, as a series in the back of my head. I could see the whole thing playing out.
Oh yeah, it's very cinematic. It's a lot of it's a lot of fun. The most fun I've had until a few days ago.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the most fun. I would say that there was nothing I enjoyed writing more than Clifford Ingram until a few days ago.
Which you got to tell us what?
A few days ago, I decided that I had watched a Zack Snyder cartoon where he was depicting the Norse gods. And after the first hour, I was so done. I was like, this is it. So we whenever we see the Norse gods, we're going to just see a bunch of crazed murderers who are out killing everything. And that's their whole legacy, that they're murder gods and they're waiting for the end and they're going to murder everyone they meet. And I was like, the Norse mythos is dire. It is dour, but I believe it can be good. So my perspective was at that point to decide that I was going to rewrite the Norse mythos.
Excellent.
And my goal was to make it, instead of a dead mythos, because if you read any of the Eddas, if you read any of the publications, any of the work, what you find is you'll see the Norse mythos being depicted as the end of all. We're at the end of days. The story pretty much picks up. There are maybe a few years from Ragnarok. Thor and Loki are off adventuring. Odin's sitting someplace sulking. Freya and all the other goddesses are preparing for the end. And Fimbulwinter, the super winter that was going to precede the Ragnarok, has about to occur, and everybody sucks. It's a terrible place to read. It's a terrible place to live. And no one has ever done it. No one's ever talked about that world in a way that ever made me go, this is a living mythos. So for me, I decided I wanted to, I don't know how far back I'm going. I'm going to go back to when they were bright and shiny. The Asgardians have just finished the Veneer War, and they've now started trying to live together. And what's happening? Where's things going to be? Ragnarok's far, far away now. So now I've got the opportunity to play with them. I have a young Thor. I have a young Loki. I have a young Balder. I have a young Sif. I have a young Sigurd. And I have so many, younger characters doing their jobs and experimenting and playing with them. And I decided I was going to make this story not about Thor and not about Loki. These guys have got more press and more paper on them than anybody.
Exactly.
I decided I wanted to pick up and talk about Balder. Balder is Odin's son. Yet in the mytho, the only thing you ever see Balder do is die. Balder was he was a brilliant deity. His mother was a powerful sorceress. She made a pact with everything in the natural world. She went around to everything in the natural world and made a pact with that thing that it could not harm Balder.
Ooh.
So Balder is invulnerable. And for entertainment, the gods would have Balder stand someplace and they shoot at him or throw axes at him or whatever. And these things would all bounce off because he's invulnerable. And this is their idea of entertainment, trying to axe their friend. But in the myth, Frigga forgets one thing. She forgets the mistletoe. It's humble. It hangs somewhere. It's hardly noticeable. She didn't ask it. She didn't think it'd be a threat. So in the myth, Loki finds this out, takes the mistletoe, puts it on the end of a spear, gives it to the blind god Hode, and says, hey, man, just throw. I mean, you're an Asgardian. You'll never miss, but you can't hurt him. and he throws it and he kills Balder.
Wow.
And in that moment, you have what was supposed to be the prophecy that said Ragnarok is nigh. It is now like within touching distance when he dies.
Wow.
And I was like, that's it. That's the only thing Balder ever does. He dies. He comes back from the dead, of course, and he saves the day. And he's actually one of the deities that survives Ragnarok.
Oh, interesting.
But I hated that. I hated that we never get to see Balder be adventurous. You know, he's invulnerable. Why isn't he like the secret agent of Asgard?
Of course. Yeah,
right?
makes sense. Yeah.
Makes sense that he'd be able to do things, pretty much things even Thor can't do.
Right.
So invulnerable. So I said, well, why don't I make him the secret agent of Asgard? So my original framing of him was Odin sends him to places that he can't send anybody else, because these are places that are so dangerous that you're sure to die if you go there and you're not Balder. And so that was the original story. But the more I thought about it, it's like, I could do better than that. That's just making him a secret, making him a spy. So what if I made him an emissary? What if I made it so that he convinces Odin, or he argues with Odin, to say, hey, you know what? Yes, we rule the 9 realms and we're great, and you know, we're all powerful and we're awesome, but they hate us. Everybody here hates us. And if they had their druthers, which is how Ragnarok eventually comes, they would gang up together and kill us all. So what if we instead try, and rather than turning them into tribute and, you know, providers of tribute, why don't we make them our friends? Why don't we actually make them allies like we did with the Vanir? And the reason they made friends with the Vanir is because if they didn't, the Vanir would eventually destroy them. So they had to make friends with them. But all the other gods, not so much. They're not as powerful or not necessarily as capable. But when they gang up on them, they destroy Asgard. So Balder says to Odin, let's not do that. Let's make friends. Let's send me out and I will find people in the 9 realms who want to work with us, and that we could come together and be friends together and maybe forestall Ragnarok even longer. So then when I started thinking about that, I was like, that's tasty. I could do that. But what if we also make it a coming of age story? Balder's young. He hasn't come into his power. He's still learning about the 9 worlds. I could have him actually go out and go to the 9 worlds. You know, we never really get to see them in the Edis. They talk about Alfheim, where all the elves live, and it is beautiful beyond measure. But we never go there.
Right.
So
right.
What if we did? What's going on in Alfheim?
Wow.
Let's find out. So I started playing with the idea, and so I've now recreated the 9 realms, and I've decided I'm going to retell those mythos. I'm going to be, you know, sensitive to the canon, the original story. I try to make sure the original story is kept in place, but I also want to have fun.
Sure.
So I decided I would give each realm a primordial aspect. So, for example, where the giants live, previously Jotunheim is generally an icy hellscape that ice giants live in and nobody goes to unless they want to kill ice giants. I decided, let's not do that. Let's make Jotunheim a primal land. It's primal in that it is not just frozen. It's got jungles and tundras and frozen mountain and glaciers and all kinds of ecosystems filled with giant monsters like dinosaurs. Jotunheim is a primal place that you need to be a primal being to survive in. And the Jotun are the biggest, baddest primal beings there. And so, you know, it is now a place where it makes sense that Asgardians might go there to test themselves. You know, bring me back the head of a manticore. You know, manticore is 14 feet tall, got slavering jaws, poisonous venomous fangs, giant wings, you know, scorpion tail. Yeah, that's something worth getting. I could see a test of courage sending out some youngster to bring back a manticore. It isn't like there's a lack of them because Jotunheim produces them. They're literally part of the primal energy of this place. So nobody's seen a manticore. One will appear because you want one. That's how awesome it is. The giants hate that. They hate this place because of it. So they try to band together and they can form sizes up to about 150 and then they fight and fall out and the Dunbar number takes its toll and they just can't stay together. So there are tribes of Jotun all over the place and some are friendly, some are not so friendly, some hate everybody. And so this is Jotunheim. This is the new Jotunheim. So it's dynamic, it's alive, it's terrifying. You know, you don't have storms in Jotunheim. You have thunderstorms, mega storms. They're just incredible. I mean, you can die in a storm in Jotunheim. You must take cover. So it's fun. So every realm has a dynamic nature. And the more I started doing this and giving out these natures, the more I realized I want to keep doing this. I was enjoying writing it. So I wrote a few scenes with Balder, and then it got good to me. I wrote a few more with Balder and Frigga, and Balder and Freya, and then Balder and Odin. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to keep doing it. So I started doing it, and I've been enjoying it immensely. And so I did Heimdall last night. I wrote Heimdall, the guardian of the Bifrost. And when I went back to the lore and found out he had 9 mothers, I was like, excuse me?
Wow.
What does that mean? 9 mothers. I don't even understand that. So I had to go and learn the lore. And then like, okay, so what are you going to do to make that make sense? I worked it out. So Heimdall is the son of 9 mothers. And he is the guardian of the Bifrost. But he doesn't actually like Odin all that much. Even though he's his father, he really isn't loyal to Asgard so much as he is loyal to the 9 realms. He doesn't care if Odin's running the 9 realms. He just cares that the 9 realms exists because the ocean that he's part of borders all of the 9 realms.
Wow. So
he can see everywhere because he is from the ocean, and the ocean is everywhere. And so the 9 realms are visible to him, sensible to him. He's aware of them in ways that no one else is. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he protects Asgard. Yeah, because that's where his dad lives. But it isn't like he and his dad are like having a love fest. It's like, okay, your dad. I don't think I like you all that much. And as long as you do your job, we're not going to have any words. But never doubt for a moment if there was anybody who was going to give him a trial, it would be Heimdall. Heimdall is the ultimate guardian. Everything about him says, I protect things. And he is great at it. And all of his magic does it. And it was so much fun to write. I was like, okay, I've got to keep doing this. I just can't stop.
This is going to be more than just novellas, right? Are you going to turn this into?
I want to make it into a novel or parts of this. The world feels like it should be a novel. I mean, when I started thinking about it, it's like, I want to bring the Norse mythos today. So I said, what if? So here's what I started having a good time. We know Valhalla. That's where the Valkyries scoop up the men from Earth, from Midgard, who were amazing. Actually, I have them scoop them up from everywhere. That was one of the first changes I made. If you're amazing, they come in to get you, no matter where you are. So it could be on Earth, but it could also be from Alfheim. It could be from anywhere, because what we want is amazing warriors. So they swoop them up, bring them back, and they fight every day. They train every day. They eat and they drink and they're merry at night. But what I decided was when Heimdall needs support, granted, he doesn't really need support often, but if he should, Valhalla literally opens a door to wherever you need them. And the door opens up and the Saint Einherjar come out.
Ooh.
And they roll out on the scene, these immortal warriors with incredible powers and skills, and they buttress and support Heimdall.
Wow.
So no matter where he is, if there's a threat and he sees it, he's never alone. He just blows the Yaller horn and he has these guys ready. Boom. Right there. And then, because people hear him blowing it, other people show up. Tyr probably will show up if he's in Asgard. Thor most certainly will show up if he's available, because what does Thor love more than bashing people in the head? Nothing. There's nothing Thor loves more than bashing people in the head. So if you're coming to Asgard to fight, you can be sure Thor shows up. He does. He will leave a fight to come to Asgard to fight. That's how he is. So, this is, it just feels, I want it to be more. I wanted the Norse mythos to be alive. And I felt like it just wasn't. And so I started expanding it. And the more I expanded it, the more fun I had. And I was like, okay, we're just going to do, I said, we're doing this. And it was weird when that happened, because I didn't realize when that moment happened, when I started imagining it differently. But when it happened, it was like, I think it was I wrote a scene where Odin and Freya, this is the peak of the Aesir Vanir War. So the Vanir were gods that lived in a place called Vanaheim. And Vanaheim is this land of fecundity and natural forces. This is different, however, from Jotunheim, which is primal, crazy natural forces. In Vanaheim, everything grows and is beautiful and it's filled with magic. And all the people who live in Vanaheim are sorcerers and capable, and they're attuned with the energies of the world. And it's a great place, and everybody wants to live there. And they weren't trying to share that because the Aesir wanted to take it over. So the people of Vanaheim said, no, I don't think we're going to do that. So they created living war machines, and they were going to battle against the Aesir, and they had many battles. From what I understand, they fought for many years, time and time again. But eventually, the last great war of Vanaheim, before the Vanir decided to take the war to the Aesir, because they were always fighting at home. They fought with home court advantage. Let's face it, when the land itself will rise up and fight for you, I'm leaving, staying right here. You want to fight me? Come here. And nobody ever took Vanaheim. Vanaheim was never conquered.
Oh.
But what they ended up doing was realizing that the Asgardians were just going to keep coming. So their solution was to close all the mystic doors. There are pathways between the worlds. So they closed all of them and made them one-way doors. So even if you found a door to Vanaheim, it only took you back out.
Oh, interesting.
Never go to Vanaheim. You can only leave Vanaheim. And the only way you get to go there is if you are a powerful sorcerer, or you know somebody who can get you there. There are people who have the power to travel between worlds, and they can use their magic to do that. Loki's one of those people, for example. Loki doesn't stay anywhere. He goes where he wants. But most people can't travel freely between the worlds. They have to walk the back roads and these spiritual pathways, and eventually they get there. But no road leads to Vanaheim.
It sounds like you've got enough to get you going for 100 years, which I love.
It's ridiculously fun. The more of it I do, the more I enjoy. And every time I'm, it's like, what about this God? And then I realize, let's do that. Because I haven't, I like Heimdall. When I thought about Heimdall, I was like, you know what? The Guardian of the Bifrost isn't always at the Bifrost. He moves. He has to move because some threats will happen before they get there. And let's face it, the place you want to meet your enemy is where they are, not where you are. So Heimdall goes to his enemies and calls his agents to support him and squash that bug. Wow. So it allows me to do more with the stories than has ever been done by Marvel or anybody else. Matter of fact, I shun any, I love Thor. Don't get it twisted. The comic Thor is great. But I shun any of its tropes, any of its ideas. The only thing we share in common is Odin is an ass. That's the only thing we share in common. Nobody likes Odin. And I'm trying to make it so that in his way, he is likable.
Cool. Nothing wrong with that.
But yeah, and that's part of the fun is how do you make a person who's been depicted generally as a terrible person likable? Yeah, he has a rich inner life, and that's what I'm working on.
So Thaddeus, look, we have I have 3 of your available books from the Amazon site, and
that third book is not me alone. That third book is a compilation. Visions 2. I appear in 14 other compilations or anthologies. Fantastic. So that's just the 3 you can find. But if you hunt around on my Facebook feed, you can find all the titles and all the stories and all the anthologies I'm a part of. So that's not me solely. That's me and a group of science fiction writers on Goodreads. We've been writing together for 10 years. We write a story every month. Someone presents us with a theme. We write a story. We battle it out, and the person who wins our mutual respect.
Outstanding. Love it.
These compilations were written from those, but I have other things I appear in as well. So yeah, I appear in a lot of stuff.
We want to follow all this up. I want you to come back to us right when you're ready, hopefully to get the rest of the stuff out that we've, kind of touched upon, and do another exclusive. If not, just come on our regular IFB Thursday nights where we have way more time to delve into and take some questions from our fans. Just real quick, Baz from Australia was on from down under, and Linda Russell from England, and Paul and James and George, and who would I miss? I hope I didn't miss anybody that was on with us. Erica, thank you for joining. And Mediocre Modeler, who's going to stand in for me on Thursday on regular IFB, and Chuck and Lola, Chris, everybody, and those that are going to watch this later on. If you're interested in anything that you've heard, Thaddeus, you're on Facebook. You have a web page, and you have some of your stuff is available on Amazon. So
Yeah,
I hope
you can find stuff on Facebook. You can find it on Amazon. If you search for me on Facebook, I still exist on Twitter, though I say almost nothing now, or whatever it's called now, X. I say nothing there. I'm just sitting there out of protest, pure protest. That's the only reason I sit there. I'm not trying to join whatever that is.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm on social media. I am everywhere. I used to be everywhere until Google's engine stopped cataloging websites, but you can still find me. I'm still out.
Thaddeus, thank you so much for taking the time out. I hope you go back to cranking out some of these stories that I could see it all playing out in the back of my mind as you were talking about it. I love it.
If you go on Facebook right now, you can see the first piece of The Light of the Nine Realms right here. It's available. I post it there mostly to see how people feel about it. Matter of fact, somebody told me today, she said, when is this coming out in print? I must have it. And I was like, okay, girl, you've motivated me. That's how you motivate me. Tell me you want to buy it. I will write it. So,
absolutely. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you very much. Look forward to having you back, and all the best with the realms.
The Light of the Nine Realms. That's what it's
man.
Called. It's fun. I'm telling you, you're going to love it. I'm loving it, and I hate everything. So
thank you very much, Thaddeus, again, and hope to have you back.
All right, now. You have a good day.
All right. Take care, everyone. Take care. Thanks for tuning in. See you guys on Thursday and on our next show. Take care, everyone.